Have you ever wondered why your life seems to be filled with relentless challenges? Why you always feel different? Like you don't quite belong in this chaotic world? Why you're the one who gets hurt the most, even though your heart genuinely wants the best for others? If you're going through nameless pain, fighting battles no one else sees, maybe, just maybe, it's because you've been chosen. Not chosen to live an easy life, but chosen to change destiny, not just your own, but also the lives of those around you. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 deep, sacred, and powerful reasons why those chosen by God often suffer the most. Not because they're weak, not because they've been forgotten, but because they carry the light, the kind of light that darkness desperately wants to extinguish. Stay with me until the end, because you won't just understand why you've had to endure so much. You'll also discover the greater purpose hidden behind your wounds, because sometimes it's in the very depths of pain that we find our true destiny. 1. Because you are gifted. Being gifted isn't just about having a remarkable talent. It's not merely about being better than others at something. No, it runs much deeper than that. Being gifted means you've been marked by the Creator. You carry within you a rare kind of light that few in this world possess. You don't just see with your eyes, you feel with your soul. You live in the same world as everyone else, but you perceive what others overlook, you hear what others dismiss, and you sense what others are too numb to recognize. You don't just think differently, you feel everything more deeply, more sharply. A fleeting glance, a simple comment. They're enough for you to pick up on someone's hidden truth. Sometimes you dream of things that later come to pass. Other times you walk into a room and feel an overwhelming intuition, a silent warning that something isn't right, that someone's spirit carries darkness. And sure enough, time reveals what you already knew in your gut. Maybe you've asked yourself, why am I so sensitive? Why am I always the first to spot a lie? Why can't my soul rest even when everything looks fine on the outside? The answer is simple and powerful, because you were chosen. You weren't born to live a life of quiet obscurity. You were set apart, called to see what others can't, to stand at the edge between light and darkness, and to be a messenger and a healer. But this gift doesn't just bring wisdom, it brings burden. Because you see the truth, it's hard for you to live in falsehood. Because you feel others' pain, you can't just look away. And because of this, you may often be misunderstood, labeled as too sensitive, too different, or even pushed away. But here's what you must understand, this is not a curse. It's confirmation that you belong to a deeper layer of awareness, a higher plane of soul consciousness. Not everyone will understand you, and that's okay. Light doesn't need to be recognized by everyone in order to shine. The fact that you sense things ahead of time, that you feel with such clarity, that your intuition is sharp, these are all signs that you are tuned in to the frequency of the chosen. You're not crazy, you're not overly emotional, you're simply carrying a sacred fire that this physical world isn't refined enough to comprehend. And if you've ever felt lonely, it's because you don't belong to the crowd, you belong to a higher mission. And when the time is right, the gifts you carry will not only save you, but also light the way for countless others still lost in the dark. 2. Because you are a pillar. When God chooses someone, He doesn't choose them because they're perfect. He chooses them for their courageous heart, their humble spirit, and their ability to stand firm in the midst of storms. You weren't chosen to live a life of ease. You were chosen to be a pillar, a bearer of burdens, a guide for others. Someone who stands in the ruins to prevent total collapse. The mission of the chosen always extends beyond themselves. That's why you're not allowed to live like everyone else. The challenges you face aren't random. They're carefully designed training grounds for those carrying a divine responsibility. You're not just building a life for yourself. Quietly, you are paving a path so others can walk more easily. You're the one people turn to when they've lost hope, borrowing just a little of your light to keep going. You're the one who still stands when the house of someone else's faith has fallen. And in order to become a pillar strong enough to hold others, you've had to learn how to stand alone, to stand in silence, and to stand in pain without breaking. Look back at the wounds you've carried, the betrayal, the loss, the misunderstandings. None of it was random. That was how God was strengthening the backbone of someone chosen. He's been refining you through fire, not just to make you strong, but to make you steadfast and compassionate. Because a pillar doesn't just need to be solid, it must also be able to support the fragile bricks leaning against it. Remember the story of Joseph in the Bible. Before he rose to power, he was thrown into a pit and sold like a slave by the very people who should have loved him. But Joseph wasn't defined by his circumstances. He was defined by the promise of God. And so he rose, and when he rose, an entire nation was saved. You're no different. When you begin to realize you've been chosen, the enemy will rise up, because it knows you carry within you the answer to countless souls in despair. The attacks coming against you aren't just about you, they're about the people you're meant to reach, the generations you're destined to impact. So if you feel isolated, tested, and pressured from every direction, know that it's not a sign of failure. It's evidence that you are the foundation. And if the foundation crumbles, the whole structure behind it begins to fall, but you will not fall. Because God does not build on sand. He chose you because you are the rock. Stand firm, trust Him, and keep walking, because when you rise, others will finally have a reason to keep going too. 3. Because your breakthrough is the key to someone else's breakthrough, you might think the journey you're on is just about you, about the dreams you're chasing, the wounds you're healing, the mountains you long to climb. But the truth is, the life of someone who's been chosen has never been solely their own. Your breakthrough, your rising, is a divine link in a much larger chain of destinies. And that's what makes you a battlefield that darkness refuses to leave alone. Take a look at the story of Hannah in the Bible. She cried out to God for a child, unaware that her prayer was unlocking a chain reaction that would lead to the salvation of a nation. Samuel, the son God gave her, would go on to anoint David, whose bloodline would one day lead to the birth of the Messiah. Yet in her moment of desperation, Hannah thought she was simply crying over a child she didn't yet have. Do you see it now? Sometimes the pain you're carrying isn't just yours. It's the beginning of a wave of transformation that will touch thousands of lives. That's why the enemy fears your victory, because he doesn't just fear you being free, he fears that your freedom will unlock freedom for others too. He doesn't just fear you breaking the chains of your family's past. He fears you being the first to shatter generational strongholds. You're not just a spark, you're the one who lights the fire. Have you noticed that when you rise, people around you begin to shift too? When you learn to forgive, others learn to let go. When you choose truth, others gain the courage to stop living a lie. And when you overcome poverty, pain, or doubt, you don't walk alone. You carry a generation with you. When you succeed, someone else gets the chance to go to school because of you. When you heal, someone else finds the strength to leave a toxic relationship. When you dare to do what's right, someone realizes they can too. Your life is a door, and once it opens, not only do you walk through, but many others will find their way out through it as well. That's why you've had to endure so much, because you carry a sacred assignment, to be a trailblazer. And trailblazers are always the first to walk through the wilderness, to carve the path, with tears, with faith, and with unseen battles. But once that path is made, it becomes a road that many others can follow with ease. So if you're feeling tired, remember this. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for everyone who will be touched through your breakthrough. Your freedom is their freedom, your rising is their release, and the reward isn't just glory, it's legacy. God didn't just choose you to be blessed, He chose you to be a blessing. Or accept the calling, because it might take 5 generations to find another like you. You are standing at a crossroads of the soul, a place where you must choose. To keep suffering in silence and doubt, or to courageously step into the destiny that God prepared for you long before you were born. And let me say this with all the love in my heart. The world doesn't need another soul who gives up. The world needs you. Not everyone is chosen. Many are called, but only a few have the courage to answer. And you know this. Deep down, you've felt that calling echo again and again. Even when you try to run, turn away, pretend it doesn't exist, it's still there. It's the sacred heartbeat in your chest. Do you know why you've never been able to live a normal life? It's because your destiny was never meant to be ordinary. You were born to break chains, to do what no one in your bloodline has ever done. Maybe you're the first to rise after generations of silence, the first to love in a healthy way after generations of brokenness, the first to choose light instead of repeating darkness. But you need to know this: if you don't answer the call, it might take 5 more generations before God finds someone with the same courage you carry right now. And in that time, how many lives will stay lost? How many souls will keep hurting? How many children will grow up never knowing that freedom is real? You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to be honest with your soul and willing to let God lead. The chosen are not the strongest, the smartest, or the most impressive. They are the ones who dare to say yes in the middle of fear, who dare to step forward when the path is unclear, and who dare to love even when their heart is shattered. This is your season, this is your hour, and you are not alone. Heaven is watching. An army of angels walks beside you unseen, and the next generation is waiting for you to make a way. So don't look back. Don't give up. Don't dim your light just because it makes others uncomfortable. You were made to stand out. And it's in that very difference that God will reveal His power. There is no victory without trials, no crown without scars. But you were never meant to die in pain, you were meant to live in victory. Rise up, chosen one. The world is waiting for you, and heaven is already applauding, because you didn't quit. 5. Let go of the victim mentality and embrace the mindset of a victor. You've cried enough. You've asked, "Why me?" too many times. You've suffered in silence, given in, sacrificed, and in return you received wounds no one saw, and a loneliness words can't express. But now, it's time to lay down the mindset of the wounded and step into the mindset of someone who carries divine victory. You are no longer a victim of the past, of people, or of your circumstances. You are someone chosen by the divine, refined through tears, purified in the fire of pain, and prepared to step into glory. As long as you wear the role of the victim, you'll always wait for someone else to come save you. But when you rise with the mind of a victor, you become that saving hand, not just for yourself, but for others who are still waiting to be lifted. Being a victor doesn't mean you never fall. Victors still carry scars, they still cry, but they don't let those things define them. They understand that every trial is shaping a testimony. Every battle is laying the foundation for a mighty triumph. A true victor doesn't need human validation because heaven has already sealed their soul with divine approval. You may have been abandoned, but you were never forgotten. You may have looked like a failure in the eyes of the world, but you've never failed in the plan of God. Every single moment, every fall, every betrayal, every time you thought you couldn't go on, was part of the destiny being written. Nothing in your life has been wasted. God is using all of it to shape the strong, radiant, purpose-driven soul He saw in you before you ever saw it in yourself. So today, shake off the victims. Cloak the world and your circumstances tried to wrap around you. Put on the mind of a victor, not just because you need it, but because the next generation needs to see you live it. You're not just living for today, you're writing a legacy. And one day someone will say, "I found freedom because they never gave up." 6. You were called for something greater than yourself. By now, you already know, don't you? Your life has never been meaningless. The pain you've carried was never random. Every wound, every time you fell, every sleepless night, all of it has been a chapter in a sacred symphony, where you are not only the main character, but also the guide, the one who sparks the awakening of countless sleeping souls. You were chosen, not to live an easy life, but to live a meaningful one. Not to run from the darkness, but to rise and bring the light. Not to simply exist like everyone else, but to become a sign that miracles are still real, that love is still stronger than pain, and that light always wins. You may not see the full path right now, but walk by faith, not by sight, because the steps you take today will become a road for the generation that follows. You are someone's answered prayer. You are the living proof that God is still moving, still choosing, still lifting up those the world has forgotten. And if you're hearing this now, it's not a coincidence. This is your confirmation. Your season has come. No more waiting, no more fear, no more hiding beneath the shadow of pain. Step out, stand up, begin. Because once you dare to move, the door will open, heaven will act, and all of heaven will shift because of you. 7. Transform the pain, turn ashes into a crown. Look back at your journey. Maybe you've walked with bloodied feet, your head bowed under the weight of pain that no one seemed to understand. You may have asked yourself, why do I have to go through all of this? And then, little by little, you realized the pain didn't come to destroy you, it came to awaken you. Don't underestimate what you've been through. Don't erase the scars your soul carries, because within those scars is the mark of a survivor, the medal of someone who walked through fire and wasn't consumed. And do you know what the miracle is? God will not let the ashes you've held onto be meaningless. He will turn them into a crown, a symbol of heaven's power to restore. Every pain you've carried, every time you've fallen and still chosen to rise, that is holy oil being poured over your head. Others may not see it, but in the spirit realm you are growing stronger each day, not in ego, but in true strength, the kind that comes from the one who created you and has never forgotten you. You may not have many who understand you. You may not have crowds cheering you on. But hear this, God never needed a stage to crown His chosen. He does it in secret, in tears, in those early mornings when you didn't want to get out of bed. And still you moved forward, and one day people will see you step forward, not as the broken one, but as the anointed one. Not as someone to be pitied, but as someone who carries light, purpose, and divine authority. Start seeing your pain through a new lens. It's not the end of your story, it's the beginning of a glorious new chapter. God has not wasted a single one of your tears. Each one has fallen in the right place, at the right time, watering the seeds of a harvest more beautiful than you've ever imagined. You don't need to be perfect to be used, you only need to be willing. No one expects you to be a superhero. Just don't give up, don't turn back, and don't deny the light inside you. Where you once hurt the most will become the place you are strongest. Where you once broke will become the place where you heal others. And that is why you were chosen, not to live quietly, but to live powerfully. Not to hide, but to rise, to burn bright, and to become a living testimony of miraculous restoration. 8. The silent weapon of the chosen. The world often believes that in order to win, you must be loud. You must fight back, argue, compete, and show strength in front of others. But the chosen ones do not fight with the weapons of this world. They are trained in silence. They win in secret places. And they are strongest when they appear to be at their weakest. Your weapon is not in a loud voice, but in the stillness where God is present. It's when you are insulted and choose not to respond because you know heaven is recording it. It's when you forgive, even when you have every reason to hate, because you understand that peace is a gift reserved for those with true faith. It's when you keep walking forward even without support, because you know the hand of God is behind you, lifting you with every step. The world won't understand you. They may think you're weak, but what they can't see is this. Every time you stay silent and let God do His part, you are winning on a level they can't reach. Because God is the greatest defender, He is the most just avenger, and He will never allow the righteous to be humiliated forever. Sometimes you'll feel forgotten, unseen, misunderstood. No one will know what you're really battling. But listen, when the sky is at its quietest, heaven is writing its greatest plan for you. Your silence is not surrender, it is trust. The kind of trust that all of creation reveres. And that very trust will become a sharp weapon, breaking every chain, unlocking every door, and placing you exactly where God has destined you to be. You don't need to rush to prove anything. You don't need to chase applause or recognition, because the chosen don't chase the spotlight, they are the light. They don't fight to be seen, they are lifted by the hand of the Holy One when the time is right. So keep persevering, keep loving, keep silent when needed, and when the moment comes, God will reveal everything, and no one will be able to stop it. 9. Soul memory. You were called before you were formed in the womb. There are things that logic alone can't explain. There are feelings you've carried since childhood that no one ever taught you, but they've always been there. Like a nameless memory, like a quiet yet powerful calling. You've felt it before, haven't you? That sense that you are not like the others, that somehow you were born to do something greater, even if you don't yet know what it is. That's not your imagination. That's soul memory, because before you had a name, before you had form, before you ever took your first breath, your soul had already been called. The Creator whispered your name in the unseen realm. He wrote your life with purpose and mission from the very beginning. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." And the same is true for you. You were chosen, not when you succeeded, not when you became good enough, but from the moment you were just a thought in heaven's heart. You were seen, you were loved, and you were entrusted with a calling. Because of that, you were never meant to live like everyone else. You carry a sacred assignment, not from man, but from the Eternal One. And your soul remembers that. Even if your mind forgets, something inside you is always longing to return to that purpose. That's why mediocrity never satisfies you. Not because you're overly ambitious, but because, deep down, you know you were created to be different. That's why these words stir something deep within you, not because they're new, but because they're awakening what your soul has known all along. Don't let this life make you forget you are not an accident. You are a thread in an eternal design. And no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're hurting, healing, or just beginning to awaken, it is not too late to reconnect with the divine thread between you and the one who called you. You don't have to figure it all out today. You just have to remember, you were known, you were called, and you were commissioned long before you entered this world. Let your soul lead, return to where you belong, and walk forward, not as someone who is lost, but as someone who is returning to the truth of who they've always been. 10. Your spiritual bloodline. You carry the legacy of chain breakers. You're not the first in your bloodline to carry the fire within, but you might be the first to keep it alive to the end. Because running through your veins is not just blood, it's power, it's will. And it's a spiritual legacy that no one can take from you. You are the descendant of those who never bowed to darkness, those who fought in silence without applause, whose names were never written in history books. Yet they planted a vow in your soul, a sacred promise, that one day someone would rise and break the generational chains. And that someone is you. You are not the child of failure. You are not the heir of a curse. You are the result of a whispered prayer, spoken in the dark by your ancestors. Every step you take toward the light, you're setting not just yourself free, but generations that have been bound. You are the first to forgive when pain was once the inheritance. You are the first to choose love where hatred had taken root. You are the first to dream not just for yourself, but for all those who were never allowed to dream. And because of that, you are a chain breaker, not with sword and shield, but with faith, with holy silence, with unconditional love, with the strength of the one who called you by name. You were never meant to carry on the old, twisted, broken patterns. You were born to change the flaw, to rewrite the story, to prove that when God chooses someone, no force in hell can overrule it. You are a warrior of the light, walking through a world of shadows. You are a new branch on the family tree, but your roots run deep into the kingdom of heaven. You are not just human. You are a living weapon sent from heaven into a generation that's starving for freedom. Live like the one who carries that royal blood. Live like the one hell trembles to see rise each morning. Because you are no longer a victim. You are an heir, a chain breaker, a chosen one, and never ever forgotten.